Water is the source of life, guys. Everyone's water needs to be cleaned up. So we don't want you to get duped. Join me with Richard Perez. We're going to tell you the best ways to filter your water because your household is different than anybody else's, and you need to have that education. So what? So you don't get duped. Listen in. Welcome back to TotallyT, your solutions girl. Recently, I did a video on what's in your water, and I suggest you go back and refer to that so you can see and do some tests yourself in your own home to see what's really in your water. You can see, smell, and taste the difference. But there's a confusion on what is reverse osmosis and what is whole house filtration, and why would you need one or the other or both. So I have invited someone that I used to work with in this industry and got to know him very well. And he's living in a different part of the country now. I wanted to introduce you to somebody that I trust that knows all about water that can actually help you in your area as well. If you're different parts of the country, guess what? You're going to learn a lot about your water, probably more than your next door neighbor. But now you know whenever you call a water filtration company, you know the questions to ask, you know the things to look for. And then you'll be able to tell if the person that's standing in front of you actually knows enough about water that you can trust them as well. So listen in. This is Richard Perez, and he's in the Florida area.
Yeah, we can pretty much go all over the country.
This is what I like, is that it's not a one size fits all. So if you go back and you see the video I did before, I was expressing the importance of you having your own water that's coming into your own house and have it tested, because what Richard does is they come in and they test it, see the size of your home, how much water usage, and they give you exactly what you need, nothing more, nothing less, to make sure that your problem is taken care of. It's not one size fits all. And if anybody tells you that, you don't need to talk to them anymore. How's that?
Exactly. A lot of people, you know, they I can go get a system online, or I can get a system on eBay, I get a system on Amazon, or even at Lowe's or Home Depot. You know, they got $7.99 systems or whatever. That's fine for one person, and you don't have any chlorine in your water, but literally that system will last, you know, well, there's a reason it has a 1 year or 2 year warranty on it. That's literally about what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, well, you know, what we've seen is a lot of times people do what they do is self-education, but also they don't know how to take care of their systems. They don't know when or even how to rebed their systems and why that would be important. So I applaud you if you went out to Home Depot and Lowe's and got something. That tells me that you know you need to have your house filtered.
They care enough about their water to do something, but that's the problem. Is unless you know the hardness, you're not even going to get past the initial stage of setting the system up properly, and therefore it's just basically set up to.
Okay, so let's talk about hardness. I'm going to share my screen so you can talk about the hardness, because people don't even know what hardness really is. There you go. Okay, talk about this and tell them what hardness can be, and it can be different in different areas of the country. Go ahead, Richard.
Basically, what you're seeing on the glass on the left is you can make a glass of tea with clean water. We'll just use that term. And then the glass on the left can be, and that could be city water, that could be well water. It doesn't matter. That's hard water basically. And hardness can be a number of different things. It's a measurable amount. They measure it grains per gallon. And it actually is a weight. Basically, it takes about 7,000 grains to make a pound. And so you have 1 grain equals about 3.7 pounds of this total dissolved solids and these particles coming into a person's water supply every year. That's per person. And that's at 1 grain per gallon. We test anywhere from 6 grains per gallon on you know, these really nice homes that are planned communities. They have their own water supply and they filter it. It's still 6 grains per gallon. And we go to other areas of Orlando where it's 12, 14, but in West Texas, we were seeing, you know, anywhere from 60 to 80 grains per gallon. And that hardness, even just making a glass of tea like you see on the left, that shows in there. Basically, it's dark. And that's what people would think. They're like, oh, that tea looks so great. And it's like, no, that's you can't even see through it. It's murky. And basically those tea particles have bonded onto every bit of those solids that are inside the water. And that's what you're seeing. It's literally murky. It's a lake. You can think about it like that. I mean, you have plant and animal life. So, city water supplies. Some cities have reclamated water supplies. So you have water that literally is being flushed down the toilet and sent back to the city water treatment in a plant, and they, of course, they treat it the best that they possibly can. But the problem with chlorine and treating the water with chlorine like they do is it only kills things that are organic. You have inorganics in the water, such as pharmaceuticals and pesticides, stuff like that, they can't be killed. So basically, what's the point in trying to kill something that can't be killed, and they're not even effectively getting out of the water? So having traces of lead and fertilizers and pesticides, along with chlorine, which is 99.9% toxic to everything it touches anyway. So yeah, that's basically what's in that tea. It's killing everything, especially city water. Well water is not much better. You can do the simulation with both right there in your own home. Make a tea with bottled water. Try to make sure it's a decent one. And then, of course, make one with your tap water in the same tea bag, same amount of water, same amount of heat, all that good stuff. And you'll notice.
Well, it also needs to be black tea, like Louisiana or Lipton, something like that. It's not going to work that well or as well if you use like a green tea or a flavored tea or that kind of stuff. You can really see it the best with that.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what we like to say is if you're not filtering your water, you have just become the filter. So that's why I was sharing the screen before. Let's back up and go over there. I wanted to show a couple of quotes. This is a Dr. Keith Cantor, and he's a leading nutritionalist and CEO of a nutritional addiction mitigation eating and drinking program. Really what he's talking about on this article is about weighing yourself, but what I'll pick this out for is what he says is after a swim or a shower, your body can absorb 1 to 3 cups of water. And of course, that increases your weight. You might want to try that. That might be your own little home program to figure that out yourself and just to verify that. Here's another article. Both of these links I'm actually going to put in the description box below if you want to go and read more. But here's another one with Devin Burke, that there are only a few of a host of poisonous toxic chemicals in your municipal water sources, but there's also some in your well water as well. Tap water also contains hard metals, radiation, inorganic materials, traces of pharmaceutical drugs, and harmful chemical byproducts such as PFC, PFOS, PFOA, which are all toxic compounds. Now, he also mentions that your skin is your largest organ of the body, which has 3 trillion pores. And what did we just say? You're absorbing 1 to 3 cups of water after a swim or a shower. So you are the filter if you're not having your water filtered. So we're going to back up, tell you about city water filtration versus well water filtration, what the difference is and what you need to look for. Why I was prompted to make the previous video about what's in your water and educate people is because I went to a town hall meeting because I live close to an Air Force base, which there's a lot of them all over the country that they're going around and testing the wells that are close to the Air Force bases because of the firefighting foam that has been used. That gets in the groundwater, it gets in the wells, and guess what? It keeps moving. But people, when they go to a town hall meeting like this, Richard, they're focused on that one thing. And my point at that meeting that I closed out was because there are so many other things that are in your water, can be in your water, and you need to test for all of it, not for that one thing that you got the warning, because you could have high nitrates. Oh, wow, there's one place in our area that I'm sure you and I both went down to that area a lot. Extremely high nitrates, and you do not want that in your water. And wells can get arsenic. Well, city water can get arsenic too, but they're testing that and they're on top of it all the time. But your wells can get arsenic at any time. So you don't want to be drinking that, but you certainly don't want to be absorbing that either. Let's go back here, Richard, to When we're talking about whole house filtration, this is when people say, yeah, I have a whole house filter. I'm like, okay, but what is it? I don't know. They came and tested it and told me that's what, but they don't even know what they have. So when we're
Mhm.
talking about the ring around the top, let's just talk about that alone for a minute, and your body's absorbing it. What does it do to your body, and what does it do to your house?
Starting with the body, basically, you're talking about clogged pores. You're talking about irritation when you shave. You're talking about hair that's dry and brittle, or having to use expensive conditioners to get the results that you want. Um, you're talking about having to use creams and lotions to break up that hardness, and that's what those are. They're chemicals that are designed to break up the hardness and try to unclog the skin or the
Mm.
pores on your skin so that your natural pores can, or natural oil can come out of your skin like it's supposed to. Um,
So
and
if you're having skin condition problems, not that
yeah,
we're trying to diagnose you or anything, but
Mhm.
if you removed that hardness, you could
Yeah.
actually see an improvement in your skin. And we
Mhm.
get testimonies about that all the time. They're really not expecting that. So that's definitely something. And think about when you go and you stay at a fancy hotel and you're there for like a week, and like the water's just really soft, and you're like, you don't feel like you're rinsing the soap off because it's so slick. That's actually what your skin is supposed to feel like. That's what your water is supposed to feel like. And believe me, you will adjust and your skin gets healthier and healthier. So that's something to look forward to.
Well,
Now,
Tony, a lot of times when you go to a hotel, these people are taking their own soaps and cleaning products, so that they take their own shampoo or they take their own body wash because they're used to it, right? They pack it and they take it with them. Um, and well, those soaps and cleaning products they have softeners built into them. They're designed to work with hard water because across the country, Johnson Johnson.
This is how you know whenever you go to a nice fancy hotel and the water is actually filtered and softened, is like if you're using the same shampoo, you're using the same amount, and then all of a sudden that shampoo is like way out here is like, wow, I use the same amount. Well, that's because that's proof right there is you're going to use much less of these types of products if
Yeah.
you are removing the hardness. Rich and I have done this so many times of cost comparison and how much less of everything that you're going to use, it will pay for itself. It definitely will, especially with the appliances. Talk about what the hardness does to your appliances.
Yeah, the same thing it does to your skin and your hair and everything, clog everything up. It's doing that to your appliances too. Basically, say your dishwasher, all the little pores or same thing, the little spouts that the water sprays through to clean your dishes, they get clogged up. They don't spray the right direction. Next thing you know, it's not cleaning your dishes properly. And on top of that, the same deposit that it's leaving inside your dishwasher and clogging those things up is the same deposit it's leaving on your dishes themselves. So that's why they make, jet dry and all these other chemicals to
Lime
basically,
away.
yeah,
Lime
yeah.
away.
hmm And all it does is spread that stuff out over the cup or the dish or the plate or the fork, whatever, and make it look like it's not a spot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
with soft
And
water, of
here's
course,
another thing that if you've got glass shower doors and you've got all
yeah,
that scale built up on it, you're always trying to get that off. If
yeah,
you are filtering the hardness out of your home before it even gets in there, you're never going to have that problem.
yeah.
But hot water heaters, if you're replacing your hot water heater in your dishwasher all the time, how
Yeah.
expensive is that? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, Tony, think about this too. A lot of people don't realize it's not just the appliances; it's your plumbing itself too. The first thing they do when they build a house is they lay the plumbing down. Then what do? They pour a big old fat concrete slab over it. And so next thing you know, well, nothing touches it after that except for the water. So say when you have a problem 5, 6, 7 years later down the road, and you have to come in and break up the concrete, get to the pipe, you fix it, and then, you know, it's just a matter of time before that water does the same thing in another area of the house, the same concrete,
Mhm.
because it's the same water, the same pipes, to the same
Yeah.
age. They're all going to break. Next thing you know, you got to do a replumb that's thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's if people don't think about what they can't see, and if you saw the inside of your pipes, you definitely want to treat the water.
That's right. Let's talk about resin, because resin is what takes out the hardness, and then there's a process called regeneration. So let's
Mhm.
talk about how the resin actually removes it with a certain charge, and then the opposite charge with sodium. And people would be freaking out, I can't ever have a softener because I have high blood pressure. If that is
Right.
your issue, you're worried about it
Yeah, we get that a
watering your
lot.
yard
Yeah.
and your trees and stuff, you can use potassium. But let's talk about that resin a little bit. Go ahead.
The resin is ion exchange resin, and there's different types. The resin that we use in our system is a high capacity resin. It's patented, and what it does is it acts like a magnet does with metal. So basically, as all these particles, these impurities come through the water, and this resin is, there's billions of little beads inside the system, of course. And once the water runs through all these little pieces of resin, the are charged with sodium. So basically, they have like a little coating of resin around. And so as these chlorine particles or these other or impurities come through, they grab onto these resin beads, and it releases a little tiny sodium particle in its place. Okay, and it's called ion exchange. So that's what it's doing. These positive ions are literally sticking, and a salt particle is being sent in its place. But we're talking on a microscopic level. In fact, if you sat there and drank, 20 gallons of this water after you ran it through the softener, you're talking about less sodium than what's in a slice of bread. So we're talking on a non-existent level, of course. The water's not going to taste salty, of course. Um, Now, if you have water that is in an area where the water is super hard, and you put a softener on this, like ion exchange like this one, then yeah, you might have a problem like that. But at that point, you're talking about well water, which is a whole different, ball game. Um, so on the city water, man, I lost my train of thought there for a second. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's just I wanted to talk about that resin because people are thinking carbon and does everything, and carbon has its own special uses, and that's good. But there's reasons why you'd use carbon and not use carbon. Do you place the carbon before or after the resin?
Yeah,
Um,
that's the problem with the city water is the resin can be destroyed by the chlorine. So if the chlorine comes in there and is hitting the resin, yeah, it'll actually cause the beach to shrivel up. In fact, it'll kind of melt them. And yeah, we've had problems with other systems that we've had, or we've done a demo for somebody and they're like, yeah, we've had a softener in the past. We're not interested. Why? What happened? And they literally had their resin literally come through their house because the basket on the inside of it, there's a tiny basket in there that keeps the resin from flowing out of the system when the water runs through there. And of course, it's shriveled up these little beads, and they actually fit through the system. And the next thing you know, their whole house was filled with resin, and that's not good. So on the city water system, yeah, your first thing you want to do is remove the chlorine, and that's done through carbon. And in fact, the first two layers of our system are carbon, two different kinds.
mhm.
Because certain carbon is more absorbent for chlorine, some of it is more absorbent for chloramines, different types of disinfectants. And then, of course, then it could run through the resin, of course, and pull out anything
Right.
else, the other dissolved solids too.
Right.
And
And
at that point, go ahead.
speaking of chlorine in city water, we've tested chlorine in often that's coming in from your city water, and the chlorine, it measures higher than the chlorine in your swimming pool. So would you drink from your swimming pool? Would you use that kind of water to cook with? No, you wouldn't. So that's another point. Now, when we're talking about, since we're talking about city water at the moment, let's talk about like the carbon and the resin. Is that for life, or are they going to have to strip out and rebed it? When would they know that they need to do that?
If the system is set up properly and programmed properly, and it has carbon, like our system is a dual bed system, so it has carbon and resin in the same tank. So it actually has the ability to clean itself, and that's what that regeneration process was that you were talking about earlier. On a system like ours, as long as it's literally plugged into the wall, so it has electricity and it has salt inside its regeneration tank, basically it's going to work. So basically the ion exchange process that we talked about, how it uses salt to clean itself, or it uses salt to clean the water. Now there's going to be a point at which those beads are full of all these minerals, and they have to clean themselves. So what the system does is it makes a sodium solution, a high concentration, and it runs it through the system backwards, and it literally forces all of these minerals and impurities off of the beads and down the drain, of course, and so away from your house, so that you don't, so you don't have them in your water anymore. And now the beads are coated again, and that process can happen thousands of times. These beads, if they're set up, if the system is set up properly and they don't reach full capacity and stay that way, or if they don't stay, they have to be fluffed. So a system has to have a certain amount of backwash cycles so that it rinses the water, removes all the sodium from the system, and basically keeps the system working like brand new from day one. And if the system is set up like that, that's how it will run. So the maintenance on a softener is super low. There's all you got to do is put salt in the regeneration tank so that it can make its sodium solution. If you have a problem with salt and you really, want to stay away from it, or if that's the issue, people can run sodium, but at $28 a bag in most places, it depends on how hard the water is. If you are in the less than 10 grains per gallon and it's only one person in the home and they want to use potassium, that's probably not too bad. You're talking, a couple $100 a year to run the system. But on a family of 4, that's going through, 1,000 gallons of water every few days, yeah, they're going to want to run salt to clean their water, to clean the system. And it's, literally $5 a bag right down the street at Walmart.
Yeah. So on a well, you don't have chlorine coming into your home. So you're just using the resin to take out the hardness. So let me go back. Give me a second. And I'm going to open this back up again. I want to share something. Okay. So what we just did was we were talking about how you're going to remove the hardness before it comes into the house. Okay. To save your health, your skin, and your appliances, your plumbing, everything, so you don't become the filter. But when you're removing the hardness, that does not necessarily, you see how cloudy this is and you can't see to the bottom of the glass how dark it is. If you were to do this at home, and you could actually not just see it, but you could smell and taste the difference between clean water and your yucky water, okay? But when you have what's called a whole house filtration system, what do you really have? If all you're doing is removing the hardness, you're not removing what we call total dissolved solids as well. So that's why you would need a reverse osmosis at the sink. Explain the difference and why they would want that.
A reverse osmosis system actually takes it a few steps further than a softener. Reverse osmosis gets down to the microscopic level, and one of the things with the ion exchange resin and the carbon itself is when you get down to the microscopic level, sometimes a softener can't stop everything. So the only way to literally stop everything is an RO system, which is reverse osmosis, and it literally has a tiny membrane that only hydrogen and oxygen can force its way through. So at that point, and that's how they make most bottled water. They run it through reverse osmosis, but then you'll notice on the side of the water, it'll say minerals added for taste. Really put stuff right back in it, and that's we can go on about that for a while. But yeah, and
those filters, the filters that come with reverse osmosis, they get wore out and need to be replaced, correct?
Yes, if you're running a reverse osmosis system on its own for just drinking water at the house, at least that's taken one step, caring about your drinking water. We talked about the skin and all that stuff, but yeah, having the combination of the softener and the reverse osmosis together is the best thing you can possibly do.
And you say drinking water, I say drinking and cooking water.
In cooking, cleaning, pure water can do a wonder of things. It's amazing. Yeah, I cleaned a stainless steel refrigerator the other day. They were using expensive chemical cleaners for their stainless steel, and this was a brand new home, and they literally were destroying their $3,000. It was the one with the screen on it and everything. $3,000 refrigerator, and they're destroying it with chemicals. And I guess the question every time you clean something with a chemical, or like your countertops or whatever, if you can't lick it after you just cleaned it, is it really clean? Using pure water to clean stuff gets down to the microscopic level too. It's the universal solvent. So clean
Mhm.
water, of course, is. But yeah, those filters you were talking about, if you have a RO system that's on its own, you're talking maybe every 6 months on the pre-filters, and then the membrane itself that does the most of the work about once a year. And then on if it's behind a softener, of course, the pre-filters, gosh, they're going to last probably 1.5 to 2 years maybe, and then the membrane itself lasts 3 to 5 years.
Right.
So
And if your refrigerator delivers ice or drinking water to you, that needs to be tied into the reverse osmosis unit as well.
yeah, preferably. If you have a whole house softener, at least that's pretty good. But yeah, preferably we try to hook up the RO straight to the fridge too. Any kind of ice makers as well. And
Mhm.
that's how you're going to get those nice crystal clear cubes like the restaurants have. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And you know, I know everybody wants to know, like, because this up front can seem expensive to take care of the needs of your water. So some will go out and get these pitcher filters. I'm not going to mention names, but I'm telling you, I mean, the water tastes much, much better. But why couldn't they just go get a pitcher that has a filter in it and change the filter out every once in a while? It's a step in the right direction, but what's your opinion on that?
Um, RO systems are very efficient and very cost effective. Literally, the amount of money that it costs to operate a reverse osmosis system and get years of use out of it is what people are spending. They're spending more than that on bottled water, no doubt about it. Most people spend $15 to $20, a month on bottled water alone. Some people spend a couple bucks a day on it.
Mhm.
So there's no doubt that having your own BPA jug, or bottle to take with you and filling it up every day would offset the cost. But yeah, the initial cost, and it depends on what brand you go with. ROs can go anywhere from $600 to $1,500, and it depends on the water output and you
Mhm.
know the consumption, of course, how much people would really need.
Well, the filters that come in the pitchers only filter out so much. So you are going to notice a difference, but it's not taking out everything that a reverse osmosis would. So like I said, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it is. And they make shower head filters and stuff like that,
Mhm.
little shower head softeners. And sometimes if you're the renter and not a homeowner, that's what you're forced to do. Let's say you live in an apartment. You have to do what you can. So that, yeah, put a shower head filter on your shower heads if you can. And
Mhm.
these are literally not just filters like what you would see in the refrigerator or what people consider a filter. It's literally an ion exchange uh,
Mhm.
little canister, and it literally wears out. So yeah, you have to, you know, either rebed it like what you said, but most of these you just unscrew them and change out a cartridge and put it back
Mhm.
on. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's an option for people that are renting. Like you said, the Perez. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mention any brand name, but yeah, these filters, they do work on a small scale. Like you said,
Mhm.
so you can't put out gallons of water a day like a reverse osmosis at the sink would do that puts out 50 to 70 gallons a day.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so in the cost on a filter like that, replacing it, once every few weeks or whatever it's supposed to be, that can get up there too. Refrigerator filters nowadays, they're $60 to $80 per filter, and they have a little light that goes off every 6 months.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
expensive. If you have an RO that can last 15 to 20 years and it only costs $1,000,
Mhm.
that's a very good investment. People spend $50 to $60 a month on their home security systems or a little doorbell that tells them that somebody's there. If you're gonna have something that costs $60 a month to protect your home or to let you know there's an intruder, then why wouldn't you spend $60 to $70 a month to treat your water? Because it's literally the same thing. It robs.
Because water is the source of life.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, literally, it robs your health. It robs your efficiency of all your water using appliances,
mhm.
steals the nutritional value of your food and your drinks that you're making with it. I mean, it
Mhm.
literally is a huge problem and people don't realize that they're paying for water right now. You're paying for water treatment every day if you're buying chemicals or detergents. If you buy laundry detergent and not pure laundry soap, you're treating your water. If you buy
Mhm.
uh, any kind of laundry soap in a bottle that says laundry detergent, you're treating the water. That stuff is literally 40 to 50% chemicals to soften your water so that it can actually work and do what it's supposed to do. It's literally, it's designed to go in there and break up all this hardness, or to give it a neutral effect so it doesn't stick to your clothes. So many people realize that every time they wash and dry their clothes, you know that little lint tray that they change on their dryer? You know what that is? It's tore up clothes by the handful, and it's every load. It literally is just to clean that lint dryer after every use. And people are pulling out handfuls of clothing and throwing it in the trash, and they don't even realize it. And then before you know it, they hate their towels because they're dry and brittle and itchy and scratchy, and they don't look pretty. And so then they have to spend money on towels. They're $5 or $6 a piece. Then they, you know, how much money do you spend on clothes each year that get destroyed by the water? Same thing. People don't realize that shirts don't fade. The colors don't fade. Maybe once or twice if you wash them, you know, but yeah, after that, they're gaining whiteness because of all the deposits that are left on them. All these total dissolved solids that are in the water are literally drying on them, just like they cause the crust on the faucets and fixtures. They're doing that to your clothes as well. And so then when you put them in the dryer and they rub on each other and tumble and break up, that stuff just, that's lint, you know. So it doesn't matter how good of chemicals, or I keep calling them chemicals, but that's literally what they are, conditioners. When you use shampoo and conditioner, shampoo is supposed to be soap to wash your hair, and conditioner, its purpose is to make your hair soft and manageable and all that good stuff. Well, the reason you have to use that is because of all these dissolved solids that have deposited on your hair, just like to do your skin. So people are spending money on these expensive conditioners. So treating your water, you know, is something that people spend money on every day, and they just don't even realize. Hundreds of dollars, literally hundreds of dollars every day.
Because it's become their custom. It's just been their way of life, and they just didn't know any different. So I'm glad we're doing this like little educational session about the water. So we were talking about whole house filtration, and it can be different for a city, or it is different for a city versus a well. And there's a difference in softening your water and also reverse osmosis, where you're removing the total dissolved solids and other things. We're talking about VOCs, which is volatile organic compounds. You definitely want to have that removed when you're on a well also. But so we've talked about removing hardness, reverse osmosis. What is whole house reverse osmosis, and what, and that can be quite pricey, but why and when would they want a whole house reverse osmosis? Yikes, I accidentally deleted that last portion about the whole house reverse osmosis. So if that's what you want to learn, make sure that you've hit the subscribe button. Make sure you've clicked the bell and you've clicked all on top of that, so you can be notified when that video does come out. So hopefully you learned so much about your water that you are so educated. You know that you need to get it tested and you need to get it filtered in the appropriate way to do so. Thank you so much for joining. This has been TotallyT, your solutions girl, with Richard Perez. His contact information will be in the description box below.